Hello friends, welcome to the studio. Today we're going to learn about collagraphs. Collagraphs are a pretty young art form invented by an artist who lived in Colorado about 100 years ago. His name was Glenn Alps. And if you look at the word, you might recognize another word in its spelling right here at the beginning. Collage. A collage is a picture you make by cutting and gluing different things together, usually flat things like pictures out of magazines, but if you can glue it and stick it down, you can put it into a collage. So the first thing that we're going to do is make a collage. We're going to do it with cardboard. You'll need two kinds of cardboard. You'll need a thick kind of cardboard like we get in our packing boxes in the mail, and that'll be the base of your picture. And then you'll need some thinner cardboard that you can cut easily with scissors, like this cardboard from a tissue box or this cardboard from a coffee cup sleeve. And that's what you're going to cut into shapes and then glue down onto your cardboard base. So in addition to cardboard and scissors, you'll want to have something to draw with, like a pencil and an eraser, and you'll want to have some glue. This is liquid white glue. I wouldn't recommend using tape to stick your shapes onto the plate because collagraph is a pretty active kind of art, and the tape may not be able to stand up to all the work that you're going to do. I have some collagraph plates already finished to show you, and then I'm going to demonstrate some of the techniques I used. So here's a collagraph plate that I made with the coffee cup sleeve because when I opened it up, I saw it had this neat ridged texture, and I wanted to see what would happen if I made a collagraph with cardboard of that shape. But it's still pretty thin and it was easy to cut. So I didn't make a picture of anything in particular. I just cut out some shapes and arranged them in a pattern. This second collagraph plate that I made is a little more like a picture. I was thinking about water lilies and ripples in the water around them. So I used the tissue box cardboard to make the petals of the water lilies. I used a hole punch to punch these little circles out of the cardboard, and then I cut the lily pad and I cut these ripples of water. In fact, my friends, if you have a hole punch or any kind of punching tools at home, they make punches that can punch out little shapes like hearts or snowflakes or stars, and it will punch through the thin cardboard. That would be a really fun tool to have for this project and to use. So I still have one piece of cardboard left to make a plate. So there it is. And I still have some thin cardboard to draw and cut out of. You might want to do a drawing first on a piece of paper to sort of figure out what shapes you want to make and how they're going to look. These are shapes that are going to work like shadows or silhouettes. So the most important part about the shapes that you draw is the outside edge and how that looks. When I was using this cardboard, it's kind of hard to draw on, even if I draw on that side. So with this cardboard, I just started freehand cutting some shapes just to see what I came up with. And then I used the scraps for other parts of my project. And you might enjoy doing that too, just sort of improvising how you're cutting your shapes out. So here's kind of a star that I could glue on. And then all these shapes, I could leave them as they are, or I could do some trimming to make them match a little bit better. This kind of play is fun to do in art. You don't always have to have a plan or have a purpose. So I could glue these triangles around the star, sort of to represent the shine of the star. Or if I moved the star over here, I could use these triangles to represent movement, to make it look like it's a shooting star. Think about how I want to do that. I want these triangles to line up. Make them look more like maybe the star is shooting down to the sky. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Collagraphs work best with a single layer. So when you're putting your shapes down on your base plate, you want to avoid stacking things on top of each other. But it is good to cut things out. So for instance, I can make a frame by cutting 4 strips. And then if I place these 4 strips in this manner, they make a frame, and now I can put something in the center space. Right? But I don't want to put things on top of things. So if I want to make that frame more interesting, what I can do is use a punch and punch some holes in my frame. Makes my frame more decorative. I'm gonna do that over here off camera. My punch is very old and its tooth gets caught in the cardboard. These little cardboard dots you could use in your picture. Could glue these dots all around the frame. I might have to make some more. Right now I'm just placing things on the base plate and seeing if I like the way that they are. It doesn't matter if you use the cardboard plain side up or patterned side up, because this plate that you're making is not the final artwork. I want something to be in that frame. So I think what I'm going to do is draw a portrait. I've got a skinny piece of cardboard here that I can use. So I want to make sure my idea is going to fit. I could draw a curve for the shoulders of a person. 2 short lines for a neck, and now an oval for a head, bumps for hair. I think that looks like a person, but maybe it won't exactly. If the person is looking sideways, their nose will stick out, and I can have their mouth open. Oh, I think I like this better. And hair, a hair shape. And then I could use the punch for the eye. Okay, so that means I'm also going to want to turn my plate this direction. So now that I've got an idea, I'm going to draw it on my cardboard. You don't have to be super careful about making your lines nice and neat. because you're going to cut this out and glue it down. Okay. So now I'm going to cut around the contour, the edge of my person. Yes, I cut right past the mouth. That's a tricky cut, and I want to cut all the easy stuff out first. I'm going to cut right past the back of the neck as well. So now that I've cut out all the easy parts, I can go back and cut out the trickier parts, like the open mouth, the back of the shoulders, under the hair, back of the head, back of the neck. Okay. So when everything has been cut out and arranged the way you like it, then it's time to glue. I have two ways that I use liquid glue. It depends on the size of what I'm gluing down. If something is big, like this person, then I will put glue just inside the edges. And even these shapes are big enough that I can put glue right on the back of each one. Then flip it over and stick it down. Now these little dots, it's a bit different. It's tricky to hold them and pick them up as well as put glue on them. So what I'm going to do instead is put a little dot of glue on the plate and stick it down. It's okay that the extra glue squished out like that. I'm just going to wipe it away with my finger. And this is white glue that dries clear. Put one in the middle. I have 3 dots left. So I'm going to do all my dots. Remember, it doesn't matter which side of the cardboard is up. Of course, it would matter with my person. My person is facing to the right. If I had glued it down the other way, my person would be facing to the left. That's not really important either, but if it is important to you, then you want to think about what is the front and what is the back of each of your shapes and make sure that you glue things down correctly. I'm not going to keep gluing everything down, but after I had, what I might do is put everything underneath a stack of books and let it sit there under the stack of books overnight. And that way, if any of the cardboard is bending up from the plate, it will be pressed down by the weight of the books. Just a little extra something to do. You do want to be careful, though, that you don't put so many books on top of your plate that it all gets squished super flat. So once your plate is ready to go, here's what you're going to do. You're going to put your plate down in your workspace, and you want to use a little bit of tape to hold it down so that it doesn't move. You're not going to have your hands free in a moment to hold everything together. And I'm looking for places where the tape is not going to interfere with my collaged shapes. This is washi tape. It's not super sticky, so I can use it over and over and over again. And when I take it off, it doesn't do any damage. But you can use any kind of tape that you have. Then I take my paper, and for this collagraph, you want to use a nice thin paper. You want to be able to feel these shapes through your paper. And so if your paper is thick and heavy, that's not going to happen. And I am also going to tape my paper down as well, so it doesn't shift. I can use both hands for the next step. All right, now what you want to do is gather some crayons that have been unwrapped, because it will be easier to use a completely unwrapped crayon. Take this black crayon. I am using the side of the crayon, but I'm not going to use the whole side. I want to use an end, and it may not feel like this, or you may not be able to see it, but if you hold just the end will tilt down ever so much. And so mostly when you do this technique, where you're holding the crayon is what's going to touch the paper, not the whole crayon. You might want to make a test paper to get a feel for where your shapes are and where they're going to appear. As I rub the crayon touches the glued down shapes first, and so they appear whole on the paper. But if there's a big space between shapes, my crayon might dip into those spaces and make a mark. And you can see that happening, especially around these little shapes. My crayon is dipping down into the paper as it falls off of the shape, and I make a mark there. I have a good idea of what my collage of cardboard looks like, but until I start rubbing, I'm not going to know what it feels like, and I'm not going to know how much my paper is going to wrinkle and dip between the shapes. If I missed part of a shape, I will go back and try and catch it. With this rubbing, everything is moving. You can hear the paper moving. If I didn't have the plate taped down and if I didn't have the paper taped down, my shapes would end up shifting around and I would get blurry shapes or overlapping shapes. Now, that could be interesting. I'm going to take this paper and turn it around and put it down again. I think I'm going right on top of my plate in the middle, but I'm not sure. And I'm going to use a different color and take this green and do it again. So the same picture, the same shapes. Ooh, that's neat. I think this will work with this Collagraph because it's not a picture of a person, place, or thing. It's just shapes on top of shapes. If you had made a picture of two cars racing on a racetrack, that might be a little confusing. It might look like a car crash instead of a car race if you flipped your paper and did a crayon rubbing again. So I like this kind of cardboard. I like the way it works. I think I like bigger shapes with this kind of cardboard than smaller shapes. These came out really well, and the heart came out really well. I already made 2 collagraphs from this plate, and I put them somewhere. I wanted to show you, oh, here they are. Yes. All right, so here's a couple of things that I did that you might want to try when you do your collagraph, especially if it's a picture of a person, place, or thing. For this rubbing, I rubbed the whole plate using the blue crayon, and then after I was finished, I took the purple crayon and rubbed parts of the plate, but not everywhere. So you can see places where it's purple and blue mix, and you can see places where it's just blue. And that has created a very interesting and even beautiful effect, I think. And here, I tried to make it look more like a painting and was more careful about where I put the colors. First, I rubbed the plate with this light brown crayon. So I rubbed everything, the water, the flower, the lily pads, just so that I would know where all the shapes were. And after that, then I went back on top with the different colors, rubbing some more. So the lily pad on top of the brown, I rubbed 2 kinds of green. For the water rings on top of the brown, I rubbed pink. For the flower on top of the brown, I rubbed blue first, and then on the tips of the petals and the round dots, I rubbed purple. And that worked out really well because the first time I did my rubbing, I used the brown. Any kind of neutral color, like a brown or even the black, if you were gentle, would make a good base for a multicolored collagraph. I will show you just a little bit of this technique right now. So I tape my plate to my working area, and then I put my paper down and make sure that is taped as well, so I don't have to worry about holding it in place. So the neutral colors I've unwrapped are the brown and the black. I'm going to use the black very gently. Because I want to know where all the parts of my picture are. All right, and you can see this is turning out to be a different kind of flower picture because I reversed the order of blue and purple and I added a third color into the picture. These papers, my friends, are what the collagraphs are. This is the art, the pictures you make from the original cardboard collage. This art, which is so new to us, is a kind of printmaking. We're making copies, artistic copies, not machine copies. We have one original, but we can make as many copies as we can until the original starts to wear out. I think eventually, after rubbing over these cardboard shapes, the cardboard is going to get pressed and flattened out, and you're not going to be able to see the rubbings as clearly. But that would probably take a long time. I think I will have this plate for many, many artworks. I hope you've got some ideas for what you want to make out of cardboard. Are you going to make a picture of the past, like maybe when the dinosaurs roamed the earth? Are you going to make a picture of the future? Maybe tell a new story about human beings living on Mars? Are you going to make a picture of mermaids or unicorns? I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm sure it's going to be something wonderful. So get to it, my friends. Have fun, and I'll see you next time.